Good afternoon, Facebook. Welcome back to Eating the Elephant on Facebook Live. This is our twice weekly series on Hurricane Michael recovery. We offer insurance tips, recovery tips, some sort of general insurance information, and we're getting close to 60 episodes in. So chances are, if you see this today and you don't see what you need, flip back through our Facebook page or check us out on YouTube. And you can search by topic. Certainly we'll be able to help you. We've probably talked about whatever it is your problem is, and if we haven't covered it, as always, just shoot us something via direct message, post something on our Facebook page, or email me if you prefer. I want to start today, a little unusual, start today with a quiz. I got a look this past week at an industry event at the 20 most expensive states for homeowners insurance premiums. And Florida clearly was on that list. And I'd like for you to take a guess at what you think the number was that Florida had. I'll give you just a second. There were lots of guesses in the audience of people that we had. Most of them were pretty high up there, but what do you think? The truth is, of all the states in the U.S., all the states in the Union, the highest premiums for homeowners insurance are in the state of Florida. Some of this has to do, of course, with hurricanes and issues such as that. Some of it has to do with the legal environment. And some of it has to do with the fact that, frankly, some years ago, there were a bunch of changes, regulatory and legal, that chased a bunch of very good insurance companies out of the state of Florida. And those that are left, obviously, are able to charge higher premiums. The ones that are left are also much more reliant on reinsurance, meaning that they don't retain much of the risk. They pass 80, 90, 95% of the risk off to some big multinational corporation somewhere across the pond, and those companies, frankly, demand a certain rate of return. So if we could find a way to adjust the insurance market and get back to the way we were maybe 1990 or before, when there were an awful lot of large national insurance companies in here using their own name, their own money, if we could get some things adjusted where we could get back to that, it would be better. But for those of you that think you're paying high premiums, frankly, you're correct. We are paying the highest premiums in the U.S. And it can be a real shock. The look on people's faces when they move down here from out of town and they come to our office and they go, "Oh my God, it's going to be $2,500 for my insurance, and I was paying $800 or $900 for twice the size of a home, say in Chicago or somewhere like that." It can be very jarring. It can also be jarring for people, say, north of here that buy a condo down here. A condo you think is a box of air, and you wouldn't need a whole lot of insurance on it, but with that insurance gets up to, $1,500, $2,000 sometimes. It can be more than they're paying on their primary insurance where they are. So I don't have a solution for it necessarily, but I did want you to know that if you think you're paying high premiums, frankly, you're not imagining it. It's common to all of us in the state of Florida. I will tell you, my personal opinion is some of what we're doing is we up here in the north are subsidizing South Florida. I won't get into the math behind that, but I do have to tell you honestly, the people in South Florida probably are not paying actuarially indicated premium quite as they should, and we're probably paying a little bit more than we should. But that's a reflection of the density of population, the strength of their building codes helps them, and also they've got, frankly, just an awful lot more political power. If there's a rate review, say the insurance commissioner or somebody like that holds a public hearing down in South Florida, and you put 400 elderly people that have nothing other than to complain and be concerned about their premium, and you put all those condo owners in that meeting, they're going to make quite an impact. So I do think up here in the state, in the north, in God's country, I do think we're subsidizing waterfront homes down in Miami. I don't say that to frustrate you. I just say that to tell you, frankly, it's just the way it is. And I don't know that we're going to have a good solution in the near future. I want to spend the bulk of my time today talking about ordinance and law, and I have two basic things I want to cover. It's something we've talked about before, but there's a twist on it in two respects. Number one, I'd like to talk about multi-unit buildings, and I want to talk about some commercial or business exposure there. And one is we've had something come up that's become a problem. We talk about undamaged roofs on a multi-unit building. And specifically, I would talk about, let's say you've got a fourplex. You've got 4 townhouses in a row that are attached to one another, and the end unit is damaged very, very badly. but there's little or no damage, let's say in this case no damage to the other 3 units, and certainly not to the roof. Well, if the roof damage is limited to that 1 unit, and let's say it's just a little bit more than that unit, okay, then now your roof is more than 25% damaged for the whole structure, and the entire roof by code needs to be replaced. Now, if all of these units are individually insured and there's no firewalls between them, that can cause a real problem because you've got 3 roofs that are essentially undamaged. Let's say the 2 on one end are untouched, one has very, very modest damage, and the other has very severe damage. That gives us 30-35% damage. You are going to have to replace that entire roof. But you have an insurance company on these 2 end units over here with no damage whatsoever. So they're going to be a little bit resistant to pay for their portion of a new roof. They don't want to pay for a completely undamaged, untouched roof. And that has certainly become an issue for us. I don't have a resolution for it yet. It's just something that popped up evidently while I was gone this past week, not with one of our clients, but somebody that had called me for some help. And I don't yet have a resolution, but I did want you to know that it's popping up. And I think this particular client's in Mexico Beach, and I think it's going to become more common. I think people may have already faced this problem, and I just hadn't been alerted to it yet. So we're going to get some more information on that for you, but it would be my opinion that if a local ordinance is requiring the replacement of an undamaged roof, ordinance or law coverage is going to be applicable to that claim. I want to talk a little bit about this for business owners because ordinance or law coverage for a business owner functions much differently. There's actually 3 parts to the ordinance or law coverage if you're looking at a business owner's policy or a commercial property policy. For those of you that own a home, this isn't really going to apply to you, but you may want to listen just for general information, and you can be more well informed and help your neighbors that may own a business of their own. There's a coverage A, B, and C under ordinance or law for property coverage, and I don't want you to confuse that with coverage A, B, and C under your homeowner's policy. Coverage A for the ordinance and law portion of the coverage covers the value of the undamaged portion of the building. So if a building is 70% damaged and it has to be demolished according to a local ordinance, then the 30% of value that's remaining that has to be demolished is covered by coverage A of ordinance and law. Coverage B of ordinance or law covers the demolition and the haul off of that 30%. It covers the demolition and the haul off of the debris removal portion for the undamaged portion of the building. And then there's a coverage C, which operates much as the homeowner's coverage does. That covers the cost of code upgrades to get you back where you need to be. Now, the property coverage, your property building limit is still going to pay to build the building back, but the coverage C under ordinance and law is going to pay for those code upgrades that may be required. For example, if this commercial building is on the water, on the Gulf, and they are now required to put in hurricane impact windows and maybe sliding glass doors, then that additional cost of those items is going to be covered under coverage C. Again, coverage A, B, and C that I'm talking about under commercial ordinance and law policies is not the same as coverage A, B, and C under your residential policies. If you have a business policy and you have a question about that, like I said, shoot us a message, send me an email. Be glad to talk about it. I'm not going to belabor it today because most of the people that I think we talk to on Eating the Elephant are concerned with their homeowners' residential losses as opposed to commercial losses. But we are going to sneak a little bit more into some of the commercial realm because we're seeing some business owners that are having some difficulty as well, particularly as we get down the road and they have rebuilt. Now they're getting to ordinance or law issues, business income and extra expense issues. Some of the consequential damages is what we call it in our business, not the rebuilding costs initially. So we're getting to that portion of the claim with some business owners, and so it's coming up again. The final thing I'd like to say about that is when you're dealing with this kind of coverage, you business owners out there, you need to ask your agent about this. Under coverage A, B, and C, there's a little checkbox, and you always want to check the box. I need you to remember that today. Always check the box. Because the way ordinance or law coverage will apply to you is, it will apply to you for an ordinance or law that was in place at the time of the loss. So it would apply to you for an ordinance or a law that was in place on October 10th of last year. Here's the problem. What do many communities, local communities, do as soon as a hurricane passes? They see all this tremendous damage, and what do? Some of them put holds on building permits to give them time to change and to strengthen their ordinances. So let's say we had a significant change in ordinances locally, say in December or January, before you could get your building permit issued. Without that little checkbox, and there's a very small premium attached to this, you would not be able to collect money to accommodate the cost for the newest of ordinances, for the ones between the storm and the time you were able to file your building permit. So for the very tiny cost that there is, always tell your agent you need to check the box. And if he doesn't understand what you're talking about, you need to have a really careful conversation with him. And if you have to explain this particular part of the policy to your agent, that might be an indication that your agent probably isn't as well informed as he should be, and you may want to give some thought to whether that's the right agent for you for your business claims. Because what we are finding in some cases is that agents that are very good at residential, say they write homes and autos and personal insurance all day long, sometimes when they step into the commercial, into the business insurance realm, sometimes they're not quite as well trained or as informed as they need to be, and they miss some of these little details. So again, have a good discussion, have a very detailed discussion with your business insurance agent, but always check the box. I want to leave you with one final thing. We're going to make it a little bit short today, and I want to talk about a run on the bank. As most of you know, anybody that has watched any of my stuff knows that I'm an ardent opponent of assignment of benefits, AOB, and we had a change in the law. We were able to get some reforms done, which I think are going to be a huge help to all of us. People won't be able to just walk up to your house after a storm with a clipboard anymore and take advantage of you. There's going to be lots of things and lots of reasons that can't happen. But sort of the self-styled king of AOB, he's a Central Florida attorney that I don't have much good to say about. As soon as this passed, he sent out a video, got out there in front of everybody, and was pretty cocky about, oh, well, here, we don't care if AOB is gone. Here's the new way that we're going to sort of skirt the law and that we're going to take advantage of the situation. And this is the way we're going to proceed forward, even though this has been reformed. We're going to push AOB to the side. We're not going to mess with it anymore. And we're going to do something entirely different. He's pulled down the video, but he wasn't able to pull it down before the legislators that passed the AOB reform saw it. There was about a week and a half left in the legislative session, and the legislation wasn't going to take effect until July 1st. It still is not. But there's one key provision that attorneys really liked, and it had to do with attorneys' fees and them getting paid almost win or lose. There was kind of a no-risk situation for attorneys and contractors that signed AOBs, and that wasn't going to take effect until July 1st either. The legislators were so offended by the sort of crass approach that this person took that they went back and attached something to another bill to make the legal fee part of this effective immediately. So there's this run on the bank, and there's this advice from this attorney that's taking advantage of the system to run in and make sure you get all your assignment of benefits in very quickly. He's advising all the contractors this. So if you're going to take advantage of a homeowner, go ahead and do it now while you still can. But again, he was so over the top about it that he got caught by the legislature. And it's very rare that the legislatures are able to move quickly. That's a very big lumbering beast, and that's a ship that doesn't steer quickly. But I wanted to compliment the Florida legislature on their willingness and ability to respond very quickly to sort of rebuke this particular attorney and his approach to the law. I don't think they were real pleased with the idea that he was going to try to find another way to game the system. And I hope that if you get the opportunity, you'll thank your legislator. It's a good idea. We're going to leave it there for this week. It's been a big week for me. I was at a very large industry event in Orlando and spent 3 or 4 days learning quite a bit, taught quite a bit as well. There's an awful lot of people there that wanted to know how we were doing, wanted to know what our experiences were, and I was able to share some of those with them. And I will say this, that for those folks down there that I met and that I spoke to, they're thinking about us and they're on our side. And I realize that's tough to hear sometimes if you've had a rough experience with your insurance company. But there's an awful lot of other agents, providers, vendors, adjusters, and some of the better insurance companies that really do feel for us, and they're hoping that we recover. I assured them all that whilst there were certainly some folks having a tough time, that without any fail whatsoever, our community was going to be back. And my hope was that we were going to be able to recover enough and quickly enough that we would be ready to respond and help the next community that faces what we're facing right now. I hope once you get to a point where you feel like you're recovered, if you're one of those people that's in a position to do that, that I hope you, like me, will be able to get out and we'll be able to help the next people that face it, because we know in Florida, there's certainly going to be another hurricane. Going to leave it with you. I hope you have a good rest of your day. It's been a beautiful day. And as usual, we'll see you on Wednesday.